Hello YouTube, this is Scraps from GriffinMods, and today I'm going to be bringing you a video on a Maverick commission that we just completed. However, before I get to the video, I have a quick disclaimer. This video is designed primarily for the person who commissioned this blaster and his wife, who it is a surprise gift for. So because of that, I will be rambling on in a great amount of detail about what inspired me to make certain design choices with this blaster and why I built it the way that I did. And because these people are not familiar with the modding community or modified Mavericks in particular, I will be going into a great amount of detail about basic operations of a fully modified Maverick as well as care and maintenance. So if those are not things that interest you, you may find this video a bit boring. Don't say I didn't warn you. For this commission, what we started out with is a Nerf Maverick. It's pretty much the standard pistol right now in the Nerf world. It's actually the #1 selling Nerf gun of all time, and that's largely because it's only $10 and you can find them pretty much anywhere. Also the fact that it has a bunch of neat little features. It might not have the best ranges of any stock Nerf gun, but it's a heck of a lot of fun. It's very comfortable. When you pull the trigger, you can see the barrel turret here spins. You prime it with this hammer back here, so you pull it back, and then it's ready to fire, and it turns and sets the shot, and then moves halfway over to the next barrel turret when you release the trigger. This black button right here pops the turret out. You can spin it around a little bit, load your darts in, play Russian roulette, whatever you want to do, and then you pull the trigger and it's ready to go again. It carries 6 shots, and they're a lot of fun to mod. So I got a message from a gentleman who said that he was familiar with some of the work that we've done for Office Wars and some of our prop pieces, and he said he would like to commission a Maverick from us to give as a surprise gift to his wife. And I said, great, you know, what kind of Maverick are you looking for? And he told me that she is a huge fan of the Twilight movies. Now, if any of you have seen the Twilight movies, you're aware that the Twilight movies have almost nothing to do with any kind of firearm at all, let alone Nerf blasters. So then I got to thinking about it, and I was like, man, how would I go about making a Twilight blaster? How could I make it Twilight other than just painting it black or something and slapping Twilight on it and calling it a Twilight blaster? When I do a theme blaster, there's a lot more to make something a theme blaster than just slapping a name or a logo on it. You really have to capture the feel of whatever that blaster is supposed to be themed after. So when it's something like Twilight, you can see how that obviously presents a great deal of challenge. So I started doing a bit of research, and I went online and I looked at a lot of the book covers. I looked at a lot of the posters. I've actually seen a couple of the movies. They are definitely not my cup of tea. However, I have a daughter that I love very much, and she is into that, and sometimes we make sacrifices for the people we love. So that being said, when I was looking into these things, there was kind of a color palette that kept reoccurring that I focused in on. And whether you're talking about the book covers or the posters, everything's always kind of this hazy, dark. It resembles the color palette of like a moonlit sky. It's always black or like deep purple or smoky gray. And then there's a couple flashes of white here and there, and that's one of the main accent colors. And then another primary accent color in the Twilight series is this kind of golden bronze color, and it centers around the vampire's eyeballs. You see them a lot of times on the movie posters, and the vampire's eyeballs supposedly change color. Their eyes change colors, and it's to this golden color. And they also use it as an accent color for the logo and various other places on the Twilight media. And then the last color that I really keyed in on is if you look at each of the books has that same dark smoky color scheme except for one flash of red. And on each of the different books it's a different color flash of red that they use as an accent color. So I began thinking about how I could incorporate all those different things into this blaster. And this is what I came up with. Starting from the basic blaster, we filled in the venting here with JB Weld, and then sanded down all the Nerf logos and sanded the JB Weld nice and even to provide us a good solid surface to put the Twilight logo. That was done on both sides. And then we also sanded down the N-Strike logo to give us a little bit of more room to add detailing to the blaster. And this warning right here on the blaster because I don't even know if it'll show up on video, but it's kind of tacky after it's painted and it really sticks out. So once those were sanded down, we covered everything in a base coat of black vinyl dye. And I want to give a shout out to Coop and Zala for turning us on to this stuff because it is awesome. And the reason it's so awesome is because it basically soaks into the plastic and at that point becomes bonded and nearly impenetrable. It won't chip. The only way to actually get through the vinyl dye is to cut or scrape down to the original plastic of the blaster. So that makes it pretty much the perfect base coat and medium for an indestructible paint job, or nearly indestructible. After that, the rest of the body of the blaster was done in black Krylon Fusion, as well as the barrel turret here. The grip and the trigger were done with white Krylon Fusion, and that was to implement some of those white accents that we were talking about. In most of the posters and the books, the white accent comes from the vampires' faces, or even in the movie itself, because they're portrayed as very, very pale. The detail work was done in this kind of bronzy gold acrylic paint that we found that was very shimmery. And we chose that paint because we found almost a perfect match to the bronzy gold color of the vampire's eyes. And it's also the same color that's used frequently for the logo. The other color that we used for accenting, we used here on the priming mechanism, as well as the detail work on the trigger, the bottom of the grip, and the front of the barrel turret. And that color is this royal blue pearl automotive paint made for Hondas. And there are a couple of reasons why I chose this specific paint. First of all, it is exactly the color that I was looking for. I don't know how well it'll show up on the camera, but it's a very dark kind of royal navy color. And the other reason that I chose this, and specifically an automotive paint, is because if you notice with a lot of cars, if you look at them under certain light or direct sunlight, they look a little bit different depending on the way that the sun hits them. And also, most automotive paints contain a small amount of metal flake, which was very important for the look I was going for. And what that amounts to in the blaster is under low light or normal light conditions like this, it looks very dark and it's got kind of that midnight sky color to it. However, if you take it outside under direct light or depending on your light source, that's when a lot of the color really starts to come out of it and you can really see the difference. And because of the metal flake in that paint, it will actually sparkle in the sunlight as well as that bronze gold color, and it'll catch the light and reflect it, which is fantastic. And that's exactly what we were going for with this blaster, because the vampires themselves sparkle in the sunlight, and that was a very cool feature that it was very important for me to try to capture, and I'm very, very happy with the way it turned out. I don't know how well it's showing up here on video, but to the person that's receiving this blaster, when you get it, definitely take it outside and see what it looks like under the sun, because it's fantastic the way that it really comes to life. Now, for the bronze gold accenting, BBK spent a lot of time doing this, and what she did was she came in and did the Twilight logo, which I know she spent a lot of time on this logo, and it turned out very, very well. And then we also used the gold accenting on the front of the barrel turret here, which is a great spot where it catches a lot of light and looks very, very good. And then also this scroll work here on the front of either side of the blaster. And the scroll work kind of breaks up the overall color scheme of the blaster and adds a little bit of nice detail. And it also gives kind of a nice regal gothy look to the blaster itself, which vampires are always kind of gothy and regal or majestic. And then on the front, there's a little bit more of additional scroll work. And when the person sent me the original message when he commissioned this blaster, he mentioned that not only was his wife a huge fan of Twilight, she was also Team Edward. And if you're familiar with Twilight, you have Team Edward and Team Jacob. Team Edward are vampires, Team Jacob are werewolves, and they have a blood feud. So if you are Team Edward, then you are anti-werewolf. And this blaster is designed sort of as a werewolf-killing blaster. And on the other side of the priming mechanism here, BBK spent a lot of time and effort carefully putting the Team Edward logo on the other side to officially make it a werewolf hunting blaster. The last feature that I want to talk about is this red ribbon that we use to capture the red accent feature that's on each of the books. One of the books I think actually uses a red ribbon as the accent, and I think it tied the whole Twilight theme of this blaster together perfectly. BBK wove and braided it around the grip. Very similar, and you can see especially here on the back, to the way the grip is on a samurai sword. And I think it really turned out perfectly. It makes it look a little bit effeminate, which is perfect because this blaster is commissioned for a female. And then of course we have the GriffinMods logo here on the bottom of the grip. As far as the basic operations and modifications for this blaster, you'll see in the original form of the Maverick, the barrel turret only came out about that far. On our modified version, we've modified it so now the barrel turret drops all the way out and can be spun cowboy style and then snap back in place. Now when you snap it back in place, the motion to put it back in is just a very small, almost upward flick of the wrist. It doesn't require a lot of force, or at least it shouldn't in a well-modified blaster, and it gets it right back in. After you flick the barrel back in place, you want to pull the trigger a couple of times to make sure that the turret is set into place and catches the teeth that actually rotate it. Something that's important to note about the use of this blaster is when you pull the trigger, it is very important to make sure you have a full pull of the trigger to rotate the barrel turret, as well as a full release. A lot of people who aren't familiar with these types of blasters will try to pull the trigger too quickly or not allow full range of motion forward and back, and that is very important to make sure that your barrel turret rotates properly. Some of the other modifications that we've done to this blaster include removal of the air restrictors and the barrel posts, and what that does is it allows a better airflow and therefore better ranges through the barrel turret itself, and the removal of the barrel posts allows the blaster to now fire any type of Nerf dart. It will fire suction cup darts, it'll fire whistlers, taggers, streamlines, and even homemade Stefan darts. So pretty much any kind of Nerf dart you want to shoot out of this thing, it'll work with. We also went through and reinforced a lot of the internal components. I also gave you an upgraded trigger catch spring, and that is to handle the upgraded mainspring in this blaster that's responsible for most of the firing and ranges. The typical spring was average to weak. We gave you a 6 kilogram Orange Modworks spring, which is about the heaviest spring that this blaster can handle, and you can hear a very distinct difference between the original form of the blaster and your modified blaster with the new mainspring. It's definitely got a lot more power behind it. As far as the basic care and maintenance of the blaster, you want to try to avoid dry firing it, that is firing it without a dart in the chamber. It's not a huge deal, but it'll help with the longevity of your blaster if you try to avoid it. You also may notice a slight film on certain parts of the blaster. That's okay. It's a safe silicone-based lubricant that we use to re-lubricate the moving parts after painting. If for some reason you feel the need to re-lubricate it, I don't think it'll ever be necessary, but if so, it's available in the plumbing department of most hardware stores. It's simply called silicone grease, and I think it only runs about $1 or $2. The other thing is that you want to try to avoid extreme temperature conditions with this blaster. I think the paint job should hold up. However, you want to avoid leaving it in like extreme heat or extreme cold, so just try not to leave it sitting in your car on a super hot day. As always, we warranty our work for 90 days. However, if you have any issues at all after that, please don't hesitate to call us, and I'm sure we can do something to take care of you. One last thing. Because this is a Team Edward blaster that's designed for hunting werewolves, we decided to throw in a little something extra for you. And that is these custom-made silver bullet Stefans. We designed these specifically for this blaster. They're made with silver foam backing rod, and they have a glow-in-the-dark, glittery hot glue tip. These are your werewolf silver bullets. Now, when using these, you want to exercise a little bit of caution because the tip is hard and not soft. They'll probably sting a little bit if you shoot a person with them, and also you'll want to use caution when shooting them around breakable objects indoors. An unexpected surprise of these darts is they get fantastic ranges. They shoot far better than any of the stock Nerf darts, and I'll demonstrate that for you now. when you put them in, you want to go ahead and push them back. They don't necessarily have to go all the way, but just about as far back as you can easily push them with your finger. Make sure I've got the right barrel set up here. And you can see they're freaking awesome. So that is the Twilight Blaster. I hope you folks are happy with the commission. And to everybody else, thank you for listening to me ramble, and thanks for watching.